Okay, it's time for my weekly video. I'm a day late. I did get some stuff at my P.O. box. Yeah, I mean, you know, somebody sent me a bunch of religious paraphernalia from the Restored Church of God. You know, I looked through it. This might help me a little bit with research for my novel, but I doubt it. Basically, it just looks like one big long opinion piece. And I am a bit of a Bible scholar. I actually have an honorary doctorate from Dallas Theological Seminary. And I flipped through here and I did a little research on the Restored Church of God. They have some interesting concepts, but I hear they don't believe in the rapture, which I do believe in. And it's basically, this is not going to help me too much. And I have limited bookshelf space. So I don't encourage people to send me religious stuff in the mail. I mean, especially doctrinal stuff like this, because unless the only exception would be if it could help me with the research for my books, but this is an opinion piece. I hate to say it, but it is. It's basically an opinion piece based on somebody's interpretation of the Bible, and there's no biblical scholarship in here. So, I mean, don't send me this stuff, okay? How God's kingdom will come, the untold story. Let me tell you the biggest problem I have with the Restored Church of God, from the little bit that I've seen about it, is you're wasting your money, because first of all, I don't agree with it. It's not biblical scholarship. You might say, what's biblical scholarship? Biblical scholarship means that when you interpret a Bible passage, you first determine who the book is addressed to, okay? What the writer was trying to accomplish, and then you interpret it in context. What that means is in other words, nobody can accurately interpret any passage in the Bible unless they've read the whole Bible from cover to cover. That's my honest opinion, which I've done hundreds of times. Because unless you have a knowledge of the whole, you can't just pick a part of the whole out and say this is what it means if you don't know what the whole book means. I'm not saying you have to 100% understand everything in the Bible, but you need to basically have the whole Bible in mind when you interpret any passage. The Bible is a very complex book because God wrote it. It is divinely inspired. And it's inerrant. That means there are no errors. You may say, what do you mostly disagree with them? I'm a dispensationalist. Basically, what that means is I believe that when you read a passage in the Bible, you need to figure out who the book was written for. Like the Old Testament was written for the Jewish nation. There was no church in existence for any of the Old Testament writers, okay? You need to keep that in mind when you're interpreting any passages from the Old Testament. Now, when you get into the Gospels, it gets kind of tricky. And I can't attempt to teach you all this, like, I can't give you my whole honorary doctorate from Dallas Theological Seminary in a 1-hour video. But basically, when you go into the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew was primarily addressed to a Jewish audience. And you got to understand, when Jesus Christ first showed up, he was presenting the kingdom to the Jewish nation. He was letting them know, I am your Messiah, and this is part of the research I've been doing for my Silver Skies novels because I have a book based in the world of the tribulation, which is future. It hasn't happened yet. The tribulation doesn't happen until after the rapture of the church, which is going to happen because Jesus said so. And I have been dealing directly with Jesus. Oh, by the way, I've been kind of reluctant to say this, but I've heard from reliable sources that my Bible for Tribulation Saints has been added to the biblical canon. So you're talking to somebody who is a Bible writer, and you're going to send me this book, which to me, I mean, I look at it, it's like a joke. It's like, there's no biblical scholarship in this at all. You may say, how could Bible for Tribulation Saints be added to the canon when the book of Revelation says in Revelation 22 that if you add to this book, you will be cursed? It's because I believe my Bible for Tribulation Saints is the little book of Revelation 10. Which means, maybe I shouldn't say it's been added to the canon. It's the little book of Revelation 10, which is now known. So it's part of the canon. Yeah. Yeah, I believe it's the little book of Revelation 10 that the Apostle John was instructed to keep quiet about. I mean, I have had direct conversations with Jesus through Skype with Brent Spiner, and I've published them in Bible for Tribulation Saints. So I've had direct dealings with Jesus. Jesus said there will be a rapture. You might say, I asked him which Christian group is closest to his beliefs. He said he didn't want to go there. He said all the Christians are right in some areas. So it's like, to be honest with you, I think the reason he said that is because there is no Christian group out there that's 100% correct. I will say this much. My husband, Brent Spiner, has been meeting with Jesus just about every day since 2012. And he has just graduated from Dallas Theological Seminary. In fact, I hear he graduated with highest honors. The highest honors of anybody who's graduated from Dallas Theological Seminary. So I guess you could say if Jesus could pick a Christian group, it would probably be those associated with Dallas Theological Seminary, simply because my husband graduated from there and he has met with Jesus all the time. So you might say, what is the problem you have with this stuff? Well, they don't believe in the rapture. Jesus himself said there's going to be a rapture, so they're wrong there. The biggest problem I have with them is they're getting the church confused with the Jewish nation. A big problem that we have with doctrine today is what they call replacement theology. And what that basically teaches is that the church has replaced Israel. This is absolutely not correct. And when you read my Silver Skies Tribulation book, I'm going to be totally debunking that theory. First of all, the Bible won't make any sense unless you spiritualize all the passages. And spiritualizing basically means you don't believe the passage means what it says. You put an interpretation on it, which is an interpretation. Basically, when you read a Bible passage, you should take what it says at face value, unless the passage specifically states that it's a metaphor or a simile. And that's how I interpret the passage. You also need Bibles that are translated accurately from the original languages. Obviously, if you can get if you understand the original languages, then you can read that version, that's even better. But the biggest problem that I have with this book is it appears that they're confusing the church with the Jewish nation. They believe you have to honor the Sabbath. You got to, I think, keep the 10 Commandments. Now, let me just explain this to you. I asked Jesus if the tribulation saints would need to keep the 10 Commandments, and he said yes. So I'm researching that. That's the tribulation saints. That's future, okay? That is not what we at the... keeping the commandments is a good thing, okay? I mean, it's a good thing to do, but apparently the tribulation saints are going to need to keep the 10 Commandments to be saved. Which kind of goes against what you might say, that would seem to go against Dallas Theological Seminary's teachings. Dallas Theological Seminary is a little bit more open-minded than some people think. It's kind of complex, okay? We are in the church age, okay? Jesus said that when he died on the cross, he died for the whole human race. It's not just a matter of saying a simple sinner's prayer to gain entrance to heaven. Though if you say it and mean it in your heart, that will often work. But when Jesus said he's the way, the truth, and the life, what he meant by that is that if he didn't make the payment for our sins on the cross, no human could go to heaven. That's what it means, basically. He said he died for the whole human race. And contrary to what a lot of Christians believe, hell is not eternal for humans that go there. Jesus regularly visits hell to take people out of there. It's like a refining place. It's a place where people are refined. Now, Zach Knight went to hell. And then Satan resurrected him as the Antichrist in 2012. So he's proof that just because you go to hell doesn't mean you have to stay there. Adolf Hitler went to hell. And Satan resurrected him in December 2020. And he's alive now. And Jesus is going to give him another chance. He's trying to redeem himself because he made a lot of bad choices, obviously, when he was alive. And Jesus is going to give him a second chance. You might say, what does this have to do with this restored Church of God? But this is like trying to put a big theology lesson in a video. Lord help me. The Bible says, for by grace are ye saved through faith. Ephesians 2:8 and 9. That not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. What that means is that because Jesus made the payment for our sins on the cross, that we don't have to earn our salvation. Okay, you might say, that sounds like a contradiction. Why do you got to keep the 10 Commandments in the tribulation? It's kind of complicated, but we're in the church age right now. The church age started about the book of Acts, and it's going to end at the rapture, okay? In the church age, you are basically saved by grace through faith, by believing in Jesus, okay? And you can say like a type of the sinner's prayer in your heart, and that will generally work. But the thing is, it's not like you have to follow a formula to gain entrance to heaven. Like the Nintendo founder went to heaven, and I don't think he ever was a Christian. Basically, if you say the sinner's prayer in your heart, and if you pray to Jesus by believing the sinner's prayer in your heart, which basically means, and Jesus will appear in different forms. Sometimes he will appear as a New Ager. Sometimes he will appear as Buddha. So my Buddhist ancestors went to heaven. Because when they were praying to Buddha, they didn't realize it, but they were praying to Jesus. But basically, if there's been a time in your life when you've recognized that you've fallen short of the true love standard, and you've asked God, the God of the universe, whoever your God is, to forgive you, and that you want to do better, and if you sincerely mean that, and if you really have the intention in your heart to want to honor true love and to do better, then Jesus will apply his payment on the cross to you. That's how it works. That's why he's the way and the truth and the life, because he's the only one who can do that. In other words, if he didn't die on the cross, none of us would go to heaven. Because we all inherited the sin nature from Adam and Eve. You might say, what about the Old Testament saints? Yes, Jesus died on the cross for them too. It would be applied to them retroactively if they died before he died on the cross. So basically for the tribulation saints, what they're going to be, the church is going to be gone. So you might say, how were Old Testament saints saved? They obviously didn't say a sinner's prayer. It was like I told you. If there's ever been a time in your life where you have dishonored true love, the true love standard, and you feel bad about it, and you've prayed to some deity to ask him to forgive you and that you want to do better, that is like the sinner's prayer, and then Jesus will apply his death on the cross to you. Now, the tribulation. I've been kind of doing research on this. Why is Jesus going to require people to keep the 10 Commandments during the tribulation to be saved? First of all, let me tell you what the purpose of the 7-year tribulation is. Daniel had 70 weeks in his prophecy about the nation of Israel. Okay? 48 of those weeks have been fulfilled. A week is 7 years in Bible, in the Bible. Okay? I believe it's in Daniel 7. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. The tribulation is Daniel's last week. The last week in Jewish history before the millennial reign. You see, when Jesus showed up the first time, as everybody knows, the Jewish leadership rejected him as the Messiah. In fact, they accused him of being demon-possessed. And they said that's how he did his miracles. And that's the reason that after they did that, Jesus just shut the door on them and said, I'm not going to be dealing with the Jewish nation anymore. He even told his apostles and disciples, we are done with them for now. And now we're going to go to the Gentiles. But if you'll notice at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, when Gentiles came to him, he said, my ministry is to the Jewish nation. I'm not supposed to be dealing with Gentiles right now. So the first part of his ministry, he presented himself to the Jewish nation as their Messiah. After the Jewish leadership rejected him, he closed the door on them and went to the Gentiles. But what you need to understand, and once he closed the door on them, the timetable stopped. Yeah, and so Daniel's last week, the 70th week, will be fulfilled in the future tribulation. And the whole purpose for the tribulation is to bring the Jewish nation back into God's fold. They are in apostasy right now. They rejected their Messiah, which is why they've suffered so much since then. Well, they got kicked out of their land. The first group that got kicked out was the northern tribes. They got taken over by the Assyrians. And then the southern tribes ended up in Babylon. I'm actually half King David, by the way. And so then we started the church age when Jesus started training his disciples to minister to the Gentiles. But there's always been a remnant of the Jewish nation that has come to Jesus, even in the church age. Okay. Once a certain number of the Gentiles comes in, the rapture is going to happen. Sometime after the rapture, it may not be right away, Daniel's 70th week is going to take place. The purpose for the tribulation is to get the Jewish nation to accept Jesus as their Messiah, which they will do after 2/3 of them die in the tribulation. And also, the church is going to be gone because we will have been raptured out. And like I said, this is where I disagree with this Church of God business. Just go to my website if you want to know my theology on these matters. I have a lot of posts about this. A lot of posts. Just do like a search on Silver Skies Research. The purpose for Daniel's 70th week is to bring Israel to God. And they won't come to Jesus until they go through the fires of hell. Basically, tribulation is basically to bring them. And also to pour out judgment on the earth. Because of the Antichrist being in power. You see, the tribulation starts when the Antichrist signs a peace deal with Israel, which hasn't happened yet, because it's going to happen after the rapture. So why do the tribulation saints need to keep the 10 Commandments and the Mosaic Law, which this Church of God teaches we need to do now? The problem with that is we're not in the tribulation, people. We're in the church age. In the church age, you don't need to do this. Though I think keeping the 10 Commandments is a good thing to do, but, except maybe you don't need to be so picky about honoring the Sabbath, but, so why do the tribulations, this is something I'm researching, need to keep the 10 Commandments and honor the Mosaic Law? The reason why is because in the second half of the tribulation, when the Antichrist breaks his peace deal with Israel and starts trying to kill off the entire Jewish race, which is going to happen, there's going to be a judgment called the sheep and goats judgment at the very end of the tribulation, after Jesus defeats Satan and the Antichrist and the false prophet in the battle of Armageddon, or the final battle. The reason you're going to have to keep the 10 Commandments and honor the Mosaic Law during the tribulation in order to go to heaven or to go into the millennial reign, because basically, that is if you survive the tribulation. If you die during the tribulation, then yes, you would go to heaven. Because the millennium is going to be on earth. Is because you will be judged by how you treated the Jew at the end of the tribulation. That's the sheep and goats judgment. Yeah. And basically, the people who are not keeping the 10 Commandments, who are not trying to honor the Mosaic Law, are the ones who've gone along with the Antichrist. So, if you've taken the mark of the beast, and you've gone along with the Antichrist, and that means you're anti-Semitic, because you will have to be in the second half of the tribulation, or you will be dead if he catches you, if the Antichrist catches you. You might say, but you could still be good to the Jews without keeping the 10 Commandments. Let's just put it this way. There's going to be an underground movement during the tribulation. And they will be the ones who are honoring the Sabbath, which means honoring it as a day of rest, to show their support for the Jewish nation. Yeah. And I think that's why Jesus said that you have to keep the 10 Commandments. Besides that, they're going to be violating all the 10 Commandments during the tribulation anyway. The only people who will be keeping the 10 Commandments will be the tribulation saints. thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not commit adultery. There's going to be rampant adultery, rampant lust. Oh, by the way, this book that he sent me was talking about sexual standards. Jesus is not a cock blocker. So, like I said, when my novel comes out, you'll know more of my position. But the 10 Commandments, thou shalt honor no other gods before me, the tribulation saints are the only ones who are going to be keeping that. Because everybody else is going to take the mark of the beast. That's violating the first 2 of the 10 Commandments. That's why Jesus said you got to keep the 10 Commandments to be saved in the tribulation. If you take the mark of the beast in the tribulation, you go to hell. You're condemned. That's why Jesus said that. The first 2, thou shalt not covet. Believe you me, the tribulation saints will not be covetous. They're going to be barely surviving. They're not going to be able to participate in the marketplace. They won't be able to buy or sell because they won't take the mark. So the people that are taking the mark are covetous because they're more concerned about their money than they are doing right. So they're violating that commandment. That's why Jesus said you got to keep the 10 Commandments if you're a tribulation saint. Thou shalt not steal. That's another one. The only ones who won't be stealing will be the tribulation saints. Everybody else is going to be stealing. They're going to have a form of fascism, communism worldwide, where basically they're stealing everybody's money and forcing everybody to live in poverty if you don't take the mark. Basically, yeah. They're going to just confiscate all your property. That's stealing. So you're violating that commandment. Basically, if you take the mark of the beast in the tribulation, you're violating all the 10 Commandments. Yeah. That's why Jesus said that in the tribulation, to be saved, you got to keep the 10 Commandments and honor the Mosaic law. And I'm not sure how far you have to go with honoring the Mosaic law. I still have to do research on that. But you'll know when my novel comes out. I actually think the tribulation saints will be reading my books to help them. My novels. So the problem that I have with this Church of God business is their Bible exegesis is lousy. So don't send me this stuff, okay? You might say the Mosaic law says that gay people should be stoned. This is the problem what I'm talking about. You're taking that verse out of context. Okay? You're taking the verse out of context. It also says women shouldn't wear pants. I mean, the clothing of a man. That is for the Jewish nation, for their time. It was addressed. See, the problem was, the book, that particular passage was addressed to condemn devil-worshipping practices of the time. These were devil-worshipping practices of that time. And the devil worshippers were committing gay sex as part of their Satan worship. And I think women were wearing weird clothing and, so basically everything that was condemned in that chapter in Leviticus was aimed towards devil worshippers. The problem with this Church of God group is they're taking passages that were designed for another time period, not for the church age, and applying it to the church age. They're not rightly dividing the Bible. A passage meant for the Jewish nation is not meant for the church. A passage, though you can get spiritual application from it, like we shouldn't steal, but to say that today you're saved by keeping the 10 Commandments or by honoring the Mosaic law is incorrect Bible interpretation. Because you're taking a passage that is meant for the Jewish nation for another time period and applying it to the church age. We are in the church age. So, yeah, in the tribulation, they will have to keep the 10 Commandments for the reasons I've already told you. But that's for the tribulation, because we're dealing with the Jewish nation. We are not in the tribulation now, though Jesus said that I and my men are going through what the tribulation saints will be going through. Now on to another note. So that's really a big oversimplification of why you shouldn't waste your time sending me a big opinion piece about the Bible, where I think about maybe 1/3 of the opinions in there are totally off, maybe more than 1/3. It's not what Jesus teaches. Like I said, I'm a Bible writer. So, no, you should be going to me for correct doctrine. And I'm not saying this egotistically, but I am a Bible writer, okay? You don't need to be sending me this stuff here. You say sex, it's unknown dimension. This is just like, there's stuff in here about anatomy and physiology, which I took a course in a long time ago, and now, this is just, I don't need this book, okay? Yeah, man. You're sending this to somebody who's got an honorary doctorate from Dallas Theological Seminary? A Bible writer? I mean, anyways. As president, though, I'm going to talk about my president job. I'm a very busy person. I have decided I need to deal with fake news because it's gone rampant. And I've appointed Vladimir as Director of Communications. He's also my Secretary of Defense. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of fake news. And I'll have a link underneath this video to the web page that I created about it. There's a lot of fake news out there, and we need to deal with it. We now have a Gabriel Chana search engine. And you can get there by going to my website, gabrielchana.blog. Okay? So just click on the link underneath this video, and it'll take you right to my website. And from there, you can get Gabriel Chana Fox News. And you can also get the Gabriel Chana search engine. Now, we took over Google about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, and it's been sort of successful, but the company is so big, it's kind of impossible to totally take them over. And you got to remember that Satan invented the internet and the computer, so we decided to start our own search engine from the bottom up, okay? And I've also instructed, we're going to try to put a banner on all the fake Jesuit fake news out there, instructing people to go to Gabriel Chana Fox News 00 on cable to get the real news, and to go to my website and check out our search engine. Now, I don't get it because they have to do it to protect me from targeting. So, but I know that 80%, Brent Spiner told me 80% of the United States is now using our new search engine. It could be up. That's what he told me yesterday. And it's the Gabriel Chana search engine, because all of the others are basically Jesuit controlled. So, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of fake news about Russia and out there. It just, and about everything. And it's just, if you believe that stuff, your life will be an unmitigated disaster. That's all I have to say. You definitely do not want to. In fact, Jesus has instructed me and my men to quit watching the news. The only news that we can watch is Gabriel Chana Fox News. Jesus said it's all fake news. All fake news. So if you want the real news, go to my website. There will be a search engine there. I've made some new law about that. So this is my weekly video. And I appreciate the thought, but I mean, but I that book you sent me, don't waste your money sending me that religious paraphernalia. I mean, let me tell you, sending me a book like that would be about the equivalent of sending a book like that to the Apostle Paul. What do you think he would do with a book like that? Huh? I mean, really. He would look at it and think, my goodness, what lousy Bible exegesis, man. This isn't I mean, the Apostle Paul wrote a lot of the Pauline epistles, you know. It's like, he would look at this and think, I didn't mean for my books to be interpreted this way. Where'd they get this, you know? Anyway. Oh, now there's so much pollution out there. They're putting mites out there and try to get me to stop doing the Gail commandments. Yeah, Jesus doesn't want me to, he wants me to eat a balanced diet without concerns about allergens or toxins. And I've stopped doing my low FODMAP diet. And Satan's trying to punish me for that. Basically, I did the low FODMAP because they used mites that had toxins in them, which they can control remotely, to cause me to react to whenever I ate something high FODMAP. And my men told me, you need to stop that diet because it's all the symptoms are being artificially controlled. You do not have a problem with onions, garlic, or high FODMAP foods. So now that I'm abandoning that diet and doing the Gail commandments, now they're trying to punish me, thinking, you need to go back on it. Oh, they're making me cough. So yeah, they can remotely control these mites that are in the bomb clouds they release in the air. That's what's causing it. And then you breathe it in, it gets into your bloodstream, and the mites can lay dormant, and then they can remotely control them using some sort of brain control to activate them and release a nasty toxin whenever you do something they don't like. Fortunately for me, Brent Spiner works to remove the toxins every day, but it is so polluted out there. They're really angry about my latest law, making Vladimir director of communications. His job is to punish all the people that are doing the fake news, and we're going to fine them millions and billions of dollars and use that to finance our search engine so that people can get the truth. Yeah. Jesus is using me to hold off the tribulation right now. If it wasn't for me, we would be in the tribulation. Yeah. Yeah, he's using me to hold it off. So, you guys, there's a lot I could talk about, but yeah. You guys go to Gabriel Chana Fox News and go to my website. You can go to my website for Bible teaching. You can go to my website to get the real news, or just to learn about me and my men, or to learn about my books. Anyways, I thank you for all my supporters, and I appreciate the thought in sending me the book, but you're wasting your money. Like I said, that would be like sending that book to the Apostle Paul, because he was a Bible writer. And I can tell you what he would have thought of that book if he read it too, and if he spoke English. He would have thought, what? Yeah, I mean, he would have thought, what? You might say, but he was a Jewish Christian. We think that he would have interpreted it like they did. Don't insult the Apostle Paul. No. He was actually instructing the Gentile Christians not to put themselves under the law in the Pauline epistles. He said it's okay for the Jewish Christians to do it, and this is like a totally different subject. You're saying, do you think it's wrong to honor the Sabbath? No, I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but I don't think it's something that's that important right now. It will be in the tribulation, because it's a way of respecting the Jewish nation, which is going to be going under severe persecution. This is a very complex subject. Anyways, I better go. Today is a hangout day for me, and I got stuff I need to do, but I want to thank all my supporters for everything. And even though I've been busy, I'm getting back into doing president job. I'm also going to be a writer, and I'm just really busy doing stuff, to try to hold off Satan. I do believe we have an acting Jesuit leader. Lori McBride has turned good. It appears that Satan's strategy right now is to keep this person we don't know. They're working underground. I suspect the Jesuit leader may be Satan himself. He hasn't had much luck with Antichrist, and right now the Antichrist is on hold, so the Jesuit leader, I suspect, could be Satan himself. That's what I'm starting to think. simply because the moves the Jesuits are making right now is a little too brilliant. I think it's possible. Satan himself is now the head of the Jesuit order. He's not going to use a human anymore. He hasn't had much luck with humans. That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. Okay, time to end this video. Amen.